Hello, my friends and family, to all the two-leggeds out there, perhaps some of the four-leggeds that are listening. Thank you for sharing your breath and your energy with me. Blessings and good chi to you. This episode is on my upcoming alignment coaching system. By listening to this episode, you'll learn a lot about psychotherapeutic process as it relates to inner and spiritual work, and how when we write our own story, we can shift out of limiting belief structures and into aligned living that is calibrated to our soul's desire to express and experience life. Yeah, something like that. So the alignment coaching system that I am creating, the first iteration at least, is due to come out in the fall, October 13th, 2024. This first iteration has about 25 worksheets and main sections of inner process. The whole system is based on alignment. So let me describe the idea of alignment first. I have several videos on this to go into greater detail, but in essence, alignment is vibrational resonance. So this builds off of the law of attraction and universal principles. That we have a unique vibrational signature. And when we're aligned with our soul, and our soul has certain values that it desires to align with, for lack of a better word, to align with. There's certain themes it chooses to explore, certain experience it is called to have. And when we're living in alignment with who we are, we could contrast this by living out of alignment, which is living in our conditioning, living in the not self, living in the patterns of the past that we inherited that aren't reflective of who we prefer to be in the life that we prefer to have. So our alignment is us on our highest path of love. It's us serving our dharma. It's the highest path of excitement. And it's the most easeful path in the sense that it's hard work and it takes a lot of energy to be somebody you're not. And our life, meaning our internal and external reality, is the result of what we are consciously and unconsciously creating. So when we have a past, a conditioned past that we have inherited, what we have acquired in our mind, and what we have accumulated from the choices that we have made, not all of it is preferable. We are always creating new desires each and every moment. These desires, when they're sourced from the soul, are experiences that we're looking to have. And we may have a certain amount of baggage from our old life, ways that we're tied to things that we agreed to in the past that are no longer relevant for us. They're no longer the preferable story. So there's this process of releasing these limiting and negative belief structures and stories which are tied to emotional charges and habit pattern reactions in the system, even physical holding patterns and ways that we show up. And there is aligned living on the other side, a soul-calibrated life, living in alignment with universal principles. We're going to get into what those exactly are. And as we continue to focus on our alignment, we come into vibrational harmony. We can reach a greater depth of our internal awareness of who we are. There's a depth to each person's being, yeah? That's why when we hear somebody who can write well or who can sing well, they say this is soulful. They're expressing themselves from their center. It's coming from a different point of focus rather than most of the energy that is offered in the world that isn't as deep, yeah? This is part of the focus of the internal arts, like meditation, yoga, and Qigong. There's a way to navigate our internal world, and we can't reach any depth of who we are unless we know ourselves. And there's a depth to us, and many people have tried to describe it. Cultures have tried to describe it. In Western medicine, We talk about the subconscious and unconscious and the collective conscious. In different wisdom traditions, they talk about the energy body and its various different layers, whether that's the 5 koshas of yoga, whether that's the mental, emotional, and physical fields associated with the 3 dantians in Taoism and Qigong. Regardless of what our schema is of how we conceptualize the inner body, the pathway of alignment coaching is to do inner work through writing and journaling, through the internal arts such as breathwork, yoga, and Qigong, and to use tools to develop one's holistic alignment. And I'll explore further what that comprehensive tool is that helps individuals to go through, in some sense, a checklist of the many different dimensions of alignment. So there is alignment, you living your soul-aligned, purposeful, dharmic life, you offering your unique vibration, your true core essence of who you are and the values that you align with, and you're offering this to the world. And a part of developing your alignment is to develop your dream for this life, which is your dharma. And dharma is a term that comes from yoga. It's similar to the Pali term. Pali is a Buddhist language that is Dhamma and Dharma. And then this is also similar to Tao, which is the Chinese iteration. They're all expressing the same thing. It can be spoken of like divine right action, but part of that is internal and external harmony. It's like that action which is quote unquote right is of the highest rightness. Yeah, it's of the highest level of alignment between you acting in alignment with your values and virtues and showing up to the world with your gifts, and it offering the greatest offering, which is your gift to the world. So this dharma, this divine right action, can also be spoken of like purpose, but there's a completeness, I feel like, to divine right action. Each and every moment there is a right action. I don't know what that action is. There's no law or specific rule book we can speak about that will express it perfectly. It's like how the Tao cannot be truly named. It's beyond name, beyond concept. But there is a way that each individual has, and because we are unique souls, we can't really articulate it because it's a unique phenomenon. But when we act in accordance with our dharma, this is where we find our highest level of alignment in life. Now, this isn't like a bore. This is our greatest excitement. One of my teachers, Bashar, explains that excitement, the feeling of excitement, is the translation of our true soul's essence in our body. We know then when we are excited that we're in the right place. And of course, we could take this out of context or take this in a way that you could understand that wrong. What I mean is excitement that's calibrated to your highest level of love. Excitement that is calibrated to doing the right thing. That quality of excitement is the driving engine of your motivational mechanism. This is what will drive you to do incredible things, and it will give you the energy, not the energy that comes from calories, from food and sleep, the energy of inspiration. That's the excitement. When an individual becomes so inspired, so raptured to do what they love, to follow their bliss, this is when they can move mountains. There's a certain force behind it, which is the universe conspiring with you, and the pathway of least resistance evolves through that excitement, yeah? So this is all something we want to get a feel for. This is why the idea of alignment is so important. because it's a feeling. It's a vibrational feeling. It's a depth within yourself. You can understand how aligned you are by the way you breathe. When we breathe with a certain depth, that's the way that our mind is experiencing ourselves deeply in the body. It's not surface level. It's not surface level thinking, breathing, and knowing the self. It knows itself to the depth of itself, which is the core of our being. So when we know the vibrational feeling of living in alignment, we know it feels good to be in alignment. If we're not feeling good, this is one of the signals that we're out of alignment. We're acting out of alignment with our values. We're not on our highest path. Our body is signaling to us through its internal guidance mechanism that something is out of alignment. So the most important thing that I can offer anyone is to turn them within, or offer them the space, or continue to empower their space and give them tools to turn within, to calibrate to the pathway of least resistance. Now, once we understand this idea of alignment more, and as I expressed, I've made entire videos on this, so I'm not going to go too deep into this. Once we understand this, from this state, from being in that high vibrational state, when we imagine and look to our future of what would be most exciting, this is where our dream evolves. Because when we try to perceive the future that we could have from a low vibrational state, when we're feeling negativity, when we're caught in the not self, we're going to project our limiting beliefs, and we're going to project our negative state onto our future scenario, just as we project our negative emotion, if we're caught in that place, onto the world. When you're in negativity, you're more likely to perceive negativity, and you're more likely to reflexively, as a habit pattern reaction, take situations and scenarios as negative. In truth, they're neutral, but you'll take them as negative if you're in a negative state, right? This is the law of attraction. This is what it is to live in a vibrational reality. So we want to come into alignment, and this is where the practices of breathwork, Qigong, and yoga, dance, etc. come in handy, yeah? Because the state of alignment is not something we have to do outside of ourselves to achieve. This is really important. There may be some action involved to bring us back in alignment, but alignment is within us. Happiness is within us. It's not something we have to seek outside of ourselves. This is why I place so much emphasis on these internal methods of cultivation, because cultivation is a beautiful word. Cultivation is a beautiful word because it expresses tending to the earth, and cultivation means dredging up the soil so that it's a fertile landing place for the seeds to grow. Cultivation in the internal arts is about purging and clearing away limiting beliefs and blocked energy to open up the internal energetic systems to more readily experience source energy and the universal energies of heaven and earth through our system to give it energy. It's cultivation because things like gratitude and equanimity and contentment are cultivated. They won't necessarily just come there, though they are our natural state, but the acquired mind and the conditioning kind of skews that mirror so that we don't quite have a grasp at that level of ourselves. So we cultivate ourselves through meditation to develop these states so that they can be our default state more and more. Because a lot of this is deconditioning ourselves from what many people call, not so affectionately, the matrix, from the conditioning, yeah? One of the ways that I like to think about it in this idea conceptualization is from Taoism, is that we have an original mind before we were born. This is our true nature. This is our soul. And then we have the mind that we have now, which is the acquired mind. Just as we have acquired this body through incarnation. We have acquired our mind, and since birth, we have accumulated experiences and conditioning from our early childhood. from our respective culture, from our parents and our upbringing, and the ways that we received love. And all of this has filtered our mind so that when we perceive the world, we project based on our past conditioning. In Western psychotherapeutic models, they call this the subconscious, and it's the wellspring of thoughts, feelings, and emotions, likes and dislikes, and fears and phobias, and all those wonderful things. More and more through internal work and practice, as we consciously and deliberately choose to show up to practice, to cultivate our mind, we can purify these habit pattern grooves, these samskaras, and we can purify our mind to once again look through the eyes of our true nature. So then the soul can move through us and it can perceive the world as it is, not through the acquired mind, the conditioning of the culture or the collective, yeah? We can perceive it as the unique individual we are. Okie dokie. So how does the system work? What's the basic structure of it, yeah? Once we get an idea of alignment. Well, the primary thing is developing the dream. As I mentioned, it's the driving engine and motivational force. So there's a number of worksheets and ways of developing the dream. And my system utilizes writing, journaling, because it engages the mind in a good way, but also meditation, mirror work, and other ways of taking these exercises and teachings and working with them so it's not so mental, yeah? So I teach individuals how to have deep experiences and to activate the imagination and to activate the higher psychic sensitivities. This is done through meditation. Now, imagination is really beautiful because imagination is, in a sense, beyond the physical mind. In this particular conceptualization, we have a physical and an imaphysical. That's where I was going with that. A physical mind and a non-physical mind. Your physical mind is in the brain, and it helps to process the senses, like the five senses, yeah? And the information that is here and now. It's very discriminatory. It's here and now. It's in time and space. But you have a non-physical mind, which is your imagination, which is your higher mind, which is your soul. And these things are not bound by time and space. And when we make connections to the imaginative realm, into the realm of the soul, we have access to more information about multiple different timelines of our evolution. We have greater access to past lives, past and future, not so much in a linear time frame in this perspective, because no time and no space in the level of soul means everything's happening all at once, and this gives us access to the Akashic field, as some might call it. There's a greater drip of the universal intelligence there. So when we work with the imagination, we're working in the imaginal realm, which is beyond the physical. And this is why individuals with great imaginations can bring forth such beautiful art, or they can speak to things without words that are representative of a culture. You know, these images and paintings and music that moves an entire culture to tears or to joy, or expresses something that can't be expressed with words. Those individuals are tapping into what the psychological framework's called the collective unconscious, perhaps, depending at the level they're tapping in. These things are outside the realm of the individual, and often the individual artist doesn't even have a full awareness of what they're expressing. They're becoming a channel for the information coming from these higher realms. So this is why I encourage a lot of work with the imagination, with creative expression, such as drawing in various ways, because we want to access the whole brain when we're using the brain, and when we want to be able to tap into the information that comes from our soul, which is our higher guidance. So as an individual moves through the program, they're learning to listen to their intuitive intelligence. They're learning to listen to their unique guidance system, which is their emotions. Many of us have been taught to not listen to our emotions. Once again, this is part of conditioning, and not all of us have this, but when we listen to our emotions, there's an intelligence to that. It's not just listening to once again, just like we can take certain things out of the context and make them a justification for, drugs made me excited, so I'm going to do drugs that are harmful to my body, of course, those kinds of drugs. That's not what I'm saying. Absolutely not. That's why I express the highest path in many different words. I say it's not just the path of excitement, it's the highest path of Dharma and love, which means it's the best path for you and everybody in your world, including the two-leggeds and the four-leggeds and the creepy crawlies and all of those who walk and crawl this earth, yeah? So we don't want to take that out of context, but we have a guidance system, which is the emotions. And we want to learn to listen to our body to distinguish where the emotions are coming from, because if those emotions are coming from the not self, if they're coming from other entities, if they're coming from our traumas, if they're coming from something that's pulling us out of our center and not towards our center, we need to be able to identify this. And this is done through learning to listen to ourselves, learning to know how to listen to our true north compass. And part of this program is learning to distinguish the many different voices in our head, so to speak, and to determine which is the one true voice, which is often the soft, still voice from the heart. That's the quietest. It's not the loudest one yelling at us, yeah? So part of learning to listen to our guidance system is to listen to the emotional body, but it's also learning to listen to the body. The body has such an intelligence. In each cell, it has lifetimes of knowledge, and it's connected to our animal, to our primal body, which has been on this earth. I can't speak for you, but my animal body has certainly been on this earth for many lifetimes from a linear time frame perspective. And then when we listen more to the soul, as I scaffolded it out a little bit, we have the higher mind, and the higher mind is also connected with the realm of our guides, guardians, and angels. And these are another access point for information. In my program, I don't talk extensively about connecting with the guides, but maybe I'll add that in. The first iteration of this program has a certain level of completeness, but I'm just going to continue to add worksheets and evolve this whole program until there's a vast library that has a similar structure, but has many, many more exercises, and then upcoming videos and other programs that can be a supplement to the core teachings here, yeah? So learning to work with this higher guidance, because in some essence, the system comes down to 4 points, which are a fundamental system for alignment and manifestation that can be used at any moment. Because that's the biggest thing here. I love all the work that's in this program, but I also created a succinct formula for every moment, because each moment is the eternal moment in the non-linear time frame, which is the higher level of understanding reality in my perspective. So the succinct formula has 4 parts. Once again, I've expressed this in multiple videos and gone into great length of this, but in brevity. Number 1 is to align. So vibrationally align with the highest path of love, dharma, and excitement. I've already spoken to that quite a bit. Number 2 is to act. So key here, act upon the highest path to the best of your abilities without hesitation, expectation, or attachment. Number 3 is to cultivate. We talked a little bit about cultivating through the internal arts. Cultivate a mind of equanimity. So this is regulation, this is receptivity, this is positivity. And then to create. 4th principle is create. Create your life. Write your story. Write your thoughts. Write your story from the highest perspective. And part of this means identifying holdings. That means physical holdings from past stress. That means identifying blocked and negative emotion. That means identifying negative and limiting beliefs that prevent you from writing your story in the most preferable way that is in alignment with you. Once again, the principles in a little bit more detail. So with the highest path, we align with it. This is a vibrational alignment. We take our mind and we direct it to what we want. Yeah? And then the second principle is to act on it. So masculine and feminine. Feminine is adjusting your internal vibration so that you attract, following the laws of attraction. If you cultivate a certain frequency of excitement, a certain emotional vibrancy, you will attract things to you. But more powerful than simply just living in that state is to take action on the things that you want. Most powerful is when you take action without hesitation. You move through life with a like a dancer dances, like when you lose yourself in the dance, that's how much you want to be moving without hesitation. Hesitation is the mind trying to take stock and process, and there is some time for that, of course, but taking action without hesitation, this builds even more excitement. Let me tell you, it's like a roller coaster. And then without hesitation and then expectation. So we might have the dream, charted the dream. Yeah, we know what we want in life, a wife and children and the dream job and the yacht and all the things, whatever that might be. Yeah. But to follow this path without expectation, that means offering it up. Even if you don't get it, the mere pursuit of the path is enough. And that's how you know you're actually following your highest path. Because if you're just looking for the yacht, chances are that's not going to give you enough satisfaction just to pursue it, even if you don't get it. Maybe I'm projecting too much, but for me, that's not enough. But my path of sharing breathwork and the pursuit of the internal arts and to doing what I love, it's enough for me. It's enough for me that I quit my job and started to do this full time, even though that was very difficult for a time. I could have learned from my system back then, but I didn't know it back then, to learn to keep myself in a higher vibrational state and to perceive the opportunities that I missed. But that's the mastery of this system, is when we are acting in our highest path of alignment, it's the pathway of least resistance. The opportunities will be there if we can keep ourselves in alignment. For example, when I jumped out of my old career, if I would have kept myself in a positive state, as I mentioned, I could have perceived opportunities because life was offering them. It's always offering them. But I went into a fight or flight state, a negative state of contraction. And I had learnings to do, so I'm not going to be hard on myself for that. But I didn't perceive all those outcomes. So it took me some time to build myself back up, build my mental, emotional state up, and build my foundations, yeah? And then the third principle of cultivation, this is key. This is really key. How are you going to maintain your vibration? How are you going to maintain your vibration when you go into environments, go into the so-called matrix, go into an environment where an individual doesn't see the world how you see it or wants to naysay your dream? There's a certain amount of resilience. The way that I've found resilience is through yoga, is through Qigong, through energy work, through breath work. This is how we create a kind of self-hypnosis field around us. It's like I see my dream. I'm in a bubble of my own positivity and other people's energies. Sure, if I want to let their energies in, I can, but it's like a bubble and I can choose what energies come in and what energies come out. This is learning a higher level of energetic awareness because we are in a vibrational reality. Part of my system, and I'm going to get to that shortly, is about letting go of old structures that most of our society is operating from and learning to live at a higher level of awareness of our energetic universe and how subtle energies affect us and how we have an auric field of mental, emotional energies as well as a spiritual field, and how our spiritual fields interact and how to cultivate the energy around the body so that it's aligned, it's beautiful, it reflects health. And this is what we're offering. This is the greatest offering This is me, of course, projecting my beliefs out there. This is our greatest offering, is our vibration, more so than anything that we can really do. When we're showing up in our true core vibration, this offers permission for others to do the same, because we can't actually give really anything of value that is like the most valuable thing we can give is ourselves, is our love. I realized this when my parents, pardon me, I'm going to backtrack that. I realized this when I was looking at the relationship I have with my parents, and the greatest thing I feel they ever offered me is their love of how they are, their loving nature, with how they love one another, just as a role model, not anything that they gave me. And I don't want to downplay all that they gave me, because they're incredible parents. But the greatest thing they gave me is just them being them. That's the greatest gift. And then the last principle is to write our story. There's some good studies out there that say 21 days of repeated affirmations changes the epigenetics. It literally changes the genes, the structure of your body. It takes around, estimates are always changing, 6 years for every cell of your body to be turned over. Repetition, following this path. So a big piece of this program is built around consistently writing your story. There's a through line of journaling, because it's initiating an old life. It's a ceremonial container of letting go, opening it up in a good way with prayer. Not just the ceremony of opening the session each day. My encouragement is for individuals to take part in what I call the daily devotional, or the daily devotional decree, which is a 15 to 20 minute routine of connecting with the content of this program and setting our intentions in the most powerful way. What does that look like? It means connecting with your dream every day and building enough momentum behind your thoughts that they have a momentum, so that when you go out through your day and you start to receive Facebook and receive information and advertisement, there's enough of a stream of information coming from your higher self guiding you, so that the other things don't distract you from that highest path. Part of the daily devotional decree is, of course, gratitude. Beginning every day, and ideally every evening, with this gratitude. This is part of the cultivation of the vibration, yeah? There's much more to it than that, but I'm not going to go into too great of detail, because I realize I'm already half an hour in and I haven't even started talking about any of the worksheets yet. Typical me. So let's jump back to the through line of writing our story, yeah? I've, in a very everywhere way, talked about many different aspects of this program. Talked about alignment and the 4 principles. These are cornerstones. These are absolutely essential to understand. And then much of the work is divided into 2 parts. The first half of the program is more focused on the negative. Not just staying stuck in the negative, but exploring the shadow, exploring our disempowerment, exploring how we play victim. And then the second portion is much more focused on our empowered story, the new rules, universal principles, holistic alignment at a higher level. But the first portion is so important because we want to get a grounds of where we're at. For example, we begin to chart our dream out. That's number 1. But as we identify our dream in greater detail of what we want, how much it's going to cost, who else is involved, what are the cooperative components, when we start going into it and we start to dream big, like actually dream big, honoring ourselves and our desires of what our soul wishes to experience in this life and what we truly want, not what we've been conditioned to believe, not the limiting beliefs. When we take a moment to cast all that aside, if money were no option, what could we do with this life? What's our potential, yeah? And when we do this, and then we look at what are the limitations, what are the limiting beliefs, what are the current challenges and obstacles, oh yeah, that's the wellspring of information that we need. That's what we need to work on. That's where our limiting belief, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time, I can't do it. I'm not good enough. Ooh, you know that story, yeah? I'm not good enough. I'm too young, old, fat, pregnant, whatever it is. So we all have, and there's obviously many common ones, limiting beliefs, yeah? Limiting negative beliefs. And these beliefs, we need to get an understanding of where they came from. This program teaches you how to get to the root cause of the limiting belief and negativity, which is often our early childhood conditioning. When we can see that these beliefs are not ours, but they're from our culture, they're from our parents. We can understand them at a greater degree, and this is part of the process of releasing limiting beliefs, is to understand them. Not to resist or reject them, to understand them and why we have acquired them, what their value is, and what they're teaching us. This is key because all beliefs, what we're speaking about, negative beliefs here, negative beliefs are self-perpetuating. All beliefs are. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a belief system and you couldn't have an experience. A belief is a thought attached to a feeling. This produces an experience. So we have negative beliefs, and often they're tied with other beliefs. So it's like a constellation of beliefs. But they're self-perpetuating in that we maintain them, we hold them because we believe on some level, conscious or subconscious, that we're getting a benefit from them. So the more that we can elucidate what the benefit is, the more we can understand why this belief is integrated into our system in the way it is. One negative belief will often open up into several others, building up a constellation of ideas and thought forms and all these kinds of things, which amount to stuck energy in the body. These beliefs aren't just in the mind is the body. So these beliefs, they're associated emotions. If we're speaking about negative emotion, these are negative emotions, live in the body, and often even build up to physical holdings, yeah? So the work at the level of the mind is to identify the old belief, and we can do work on it. There's many ways of doing this. It's not one way, but identifying where it came from and how it holds sway in our life, and from the perception of this belief, how do we perceive the world? And then to see the other side. This is the power of writing. This is the power of imagination. Who would we be without that belief? What becomes available? Yeah, so we want to make a clear distinction between the negative belief and the positive belief. We want to make a clear distinction between the negative belief and the true nature of reality, which we're going to get into shortly. So once we've done some work at the level of the mind on a belief structure, we want to understand where it lives in the body. And then we want to work with energy work practices such as the aforementioned breathwork, Qigong, and yoga to help clear this energy from the system. Now, if we apply the succinct alignment formula, the 4-part process, when we look to this, one of the ways that we can rid ourselves of negative beliefs is to not allow them to unconsciously guide our behaviors and patterns. So instead what we do is we take a moment to align with the new belief. This is part of aligning with the highest path. We align with our new belief and we act in accordance with it. If I go back to my example of me quitting my job, what I did was I aligned with my soul and my beliefs and what I wanted. And at the time, that was my soul will guide me and I will be supported in my process, things of this nature, yeah? So then I quit, and then I experienced the old belief coming to the surface right in my face. And at that time, instead of continuing to boldly step forward in my empowerment, I went into a victim archetype of being a victim to those emotions, into the circumstance. And I couldn't see my dream as the light that guided me forward. And I couldn't receive the intuitive communication from my soul and higher self because I put myself in a fight or flight, which blocked me off, yeah? So then I fell back into the old belief system. This is really key. I could have, I'm sure of it, I could have in some way orchestrated that transition, and it would have just been boom, bang, boom, bada boom, you know what I mean? But instead it was boom, oh fuck, oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? Because beliefs, as they come up, it's like an infection, and the pus comes up. It's got to come to the surface, and as it comes to the surface, that's when it's going to get most intense and in your face. That's when the negative emotion associated, it's coming up and out from the psyche. It was suppressed or pushed down, at least to a certain depth, yeah, but it's coming up and out. So that now, in my present moment, I'm much more aware, and I have much more resilience in my system through practice and through repetition and trust and all the things that have happened in my experiences. Everything's divinely orchestrated. I needed to go through that. But now I can sustain a vibration that says, okay, I'm finished with that old belief. I'm willing to go through the process, and I have a level of mind that can pull me through. Plus, I'm much more supported by my community, my friends, by my practices, all these kinds of things. Yeah, so we act in accordance with the new belief, and what we can do is we can just walk by the old life. It'll feel like that. I know it very well. It's like there's a timeline of the pattern. It's often cyclical, but it's like the same thing you've been doing. And then once you do this work, you see that old pattern like you've never seen it before, because you're seeing it not not after you've already been caught in it. You're seeing it before it's happening, and then you have a choice. You have a free choice to go, nope, not today. And then you make a different choice in accordance with the new belief, and then you've walked the new path. In terms of your brain, this would create neuroplasticity, a whole new pathway of behavior and choice, and all the things that come with it have opened up. So that's a little bit about clearing limiting beliefs. Much more to that, of course. So the first portion, as I mentioned, is all about looking to the shadow. So we have our values worksheet. Values gets at our core values, and we want to know what the core values that we're operating from that are out of alignment with our true nature. Because yes, we have values that we embody, and there's always more that we can do, and there's always things that are out of alignment, and we do want to track that. And then there's all these inherited values that were conditioned in our system from our early childhood. Another worksheet is the victim archetypes worksheet. This comes from the work of Carolyn Myss, pardon me if I pronounced that wrong. I've listened to her lots, and she's an amazing teacher. I don't know how to fully pronounce her name, or to pronounce it properly, pardon me. And her 4 victim archetypes or childhood archetypes are the victim, the saboteur, the innocent child, and the prostitute. In brevity, the victim is the victim. That one's pretty obvious. How do you play victim in your life? Oh, poor me. Circumstances matter more than my state. The saboteur is the ways in which you sabotage yourself. Everyone's got a unique shadow sabotager in their life of how they prevent their own success, yeah? There's the prostitute. The prostitute is the ways in which we sell ourselves for money in ways that are out of alignment with our true soul's purpose, yeah? And then we have the innocent child, or the child. These are the ways in which we resist growing up, when we want to stay in the old childish patterns rather than taking on the mind of an adult. The mind of a child is saying things like, it's in that victim, it's like, why is this happening? That's unfair. Whereas the adult says, this is the circumstances, this is the state I choose. I choose. I've chosen this life. I've chosen these circumstances. I've chosen my parents. I have chosen this. That's the mind of an adult. And the more that we can, once again, create that polarity between making really clear, we're shining a light on these things that are deep within the psyche that we may or may not be aware of, but to bring them into greater clarity gives differentiation between the highest path and all other paths. And then in each of these, like the portion of the worksheets that are negative, we always making the distinction between what is the positive. And then once we've done a bunch of this work on the negativity and the shadow, one of the worksheets is to write your disempowered story. Once again, this is just building on what I've been speaking to. We want to fully give light, give voice. This is where I don't just want people to write the story. My encouragement is for them to go in the mirror and speak that story, to be in that energy and to feel it in their body. How does your victim speak? Notice how your physicality changes. I know when I'm in my empowered body, my chest is open and I'm proud. I stand tall and stable and centered and grounded. When I'm in my victim, I'm hunched over and I'm collapsed. I'm not energetic, not looking people in the eyes, etc., etc. We want to make a clear distinction between the stories, not just in the mind, but how they live in the emotions in the body, because we're letting go of this old energy, which isn't us. It's coming from outside in. We're coming inside out. Yeah, their soul is flowering from within us. All these stories are masks we wear. They're holdings in the voice. They're things that we can literally shed off. It'll feel like a snake coming out of its skin. And then the second portion of the story is getting in touch with what you came here to do. I have a sheet called My Design, in which I encourage individuals to pursue the pathway of searching their zodiac and human design and their gene keys and going into all these other sources of information that are beautiful tools of reflection that can give us guidance as to what parts of us that we resonate with. What are your gifts? What did you come here to give to the world? The more that we know our design, this is my understanding, we have an energetic blueprint, and some of these things like gene keys and human design have articulated this in a beautiful way. We're very unique. For example, I'm a reflector, which is supposedly 1% of the population. I'm a very unique energetic being, and the way that I work is very unique to me. So when I try to follow the formulas of the majority of other people, it doesn't work for me. We need to know ourselves at a very deep level so that we can act in accordance with our very unique blueprint. So we want to sketch this out. What is your soul's blueprint design, yeah? From here, I go into greater detail on universal principles. Now, I gave you the 4 alignment formula, and then there's a number of different articulations of universal principles of this universe. I use Arnold Patton's universal principles. I use the 7 hermetic principles and Bashar's 5 laws. These are all beautiful articulations, in some sense saying the same thing, but they're just at different sizes. Yeah, Bashar's is 5. Universal law by Arnold Patton is there's 20 different ones. So I like the succinct formulas and I like the greater detail ones. I give you a little bit of both. But these are, in a sense, the new rules. These are not the rules that the majority of society and culture teaches and preaches consciously and unconsciously. So when we act in accordance with these laws of vibration, laws of rhythm, all is mind, these are higher principles that give you the keys to mastering your inner and outer world at a greater level. And then once we're getting an idea of the new rules and your unique design, my encouragement is with a worksheet here is to write your empowered story. What is the story of, like, the most preferable story that you're writing? Your dream as you want to write it. From here, there's some more worksheets on positivity and empowerment. More worksheets and exercises and meditations on how to develop your dream, how to use your imagination to connect more and more and to raise your vibration. I mentioned the devotional decree. As we continue to do this work, we're building information, yeah? We're getting values. Not only do we explore the negative archetypes, there's a section for exploring your positive archetypes. This could be, if you're a male, your king, warrior, lover, and magician. We want to focus on these things. So what all this information amounts to is it builds into a morning and evening routine. I spoke a little bit about the alignment process in the mornings. This is also carried on in the evenings with very specific journal prompts, etc. And then there's a structuring I call the 8-limb alignment coaching system. This was the first development in this coaching program, and it has 8 main points, and I've spoken extensively about it, though it keeps evolving. But it's a comprehensive system for your alignment. Number 1 is your alignment, your values, your dream, what you came here to do. Most importantly, this is an alignment. Yeah, it's a vibrational state, not just you thinking about it, though your mind's direction is very important. From here, the 2 forces are yin and yang, balancing out negativity and positivity, balancing the nervous system, balancing the breath. 3 realms is your connection with heaven and earth, and the 3 choices, the highest choice being the one that's best for all. 4 directions comes from Paul Chek's system, and the 4 directions is indigenous wisdom, and the 4 doctors is Paul Chek's. I'm not going to go through all these, but they basically scaffold themselves as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And there are 8 different dimensions of your vibrational alignment in your multiple bodies, like the chakras, vibrational energy bodies. So when all of these systems are aligned, and all of these systems have a depth to them, like the chakras, many people know, both a vibrational subtle body, but also connected to belief systems associated with your finances, with your sexuality, with your empowerment. And these are all opportunities or access points for you to understand what conditioning you hold in terms of your relationship with money, your relationship with sexuality. I said that kind of funny. Sexuality. So when we look at our sexuality, we can look at what's the conditioning we've received, what's held in the genetic imprinting, what is serving us, and do the same kind of teaching of once you know how to clear limiting beliefs, find them in your body, open up the energy and empower the new belief, we can work at the subtle body level and we can create a whole new alignment for the system, So I feel like that expresses the majority of the system. I'm just going to give a little rehash here. So the essential understanding is to understand this idea of alignment and how we live in a vibrational universe of attraction, and we are the conscious creator. And when we take responsibility for our life and we allow our soul to guide us, there is a highest path of ease and grace, pathway of least resistance, our highest path of dharma, of love and excitement. And our aligned living can be contrasted with the conditioning that we've received from the acquired mind that we store within us, from our society, from our early upbringing. These are our lessons and teachings in this life. These are valuable things. But they're also there with our shadows, with the ways that we play victim. Values are out of alignment. We carry a disempowered story because most of humanity has been disempowered throughout history. So what we do is we want to understand who we are, know thyself, and know the rules. They're not the new rules, but I'm calling them the new rules because the old rules are what we want to orient away from. The new rules, which are eternal rules, are the universal laws of creation. Once we understand these laws and we begin to interact with them, because none of this stuff is to be taken dogmatically, it's through our interaction with these principles that we understand through direct knowing that these are truths. And then we can continue to follow this path, which empowers us as an individual. The through line of the coaching program is writing your story and having an empowered toolkit of practices, from breathwork to Qigong to yoga to other inner work exercises, mirror work, etc., to give you the tools to clear limiting beliefs, negative emotion, and physical holding patterns in your system so that you can shed the skin of your old life and walk into your new life with excitement. Because when you know that you can take on stress and you can take on challenge because you know the system of how that all works in the body mind, then you're willing to not just walk towards your dreams, but to run and eventually just to dance because you're living in the dream, yeah? A big part of the system is the 8-limb system, a comprehensive way of doing your checks and balances mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, gross body, subtle body, getting a comprehensive alignment structure that you can come to again and again, that you can track when you're out of alignment and bring yourself into higher levels of alignment. And with higher levels of alignment, more expansion, love, and the devotional living of your true soul's essence splattered all over sensuality. It's the greatest thing. There's nothing better than it, because there's nothing more that we have to give but our true soul's essence to the world. That's our greatest offering, and that's such a relief. We don't have to save the world. We don't need saving. It's just a matter of being ourselves in its simplest form. Of course, there's all this that comes to it, a comprehensive system, yeah? But in essence, it comes down to the simplest thing of learning to be ourselves, or unlearning how to not be ourselves would be another way to express that, yeah? So as I mentioned, the first iteration of this system, I'd like to do a soft launch by October 13th of 2024. So in the fall, and all this information will be accessible. There's a number of different ways I'd like to offer this. One is people can run through the system for the most part on their own. The more powerful way of doing this would be to open up a coaching container. This might just mean opening and doing several sessions, or to have me guide you through the majority of the program, working with you, doing coaching and energy work sessions, and teaching you at a greater with greater capacity these energy work practices to accelerate your growth, accelerate this process of purging and deconditioning, to empower you. It's powerful to have a space holder there. It's powerful to have someone holding accountability. It's powerful when we open it up in that way, yeah? And then eventually a lot of this will be built into more of a course or program that is accessible through videos and online content, which I'll be offering as I create them for free. But eventually it'll come into a sustainable system that can run on its own, yeah? And of course, I'm just going to continue to develop more and more worksheets. These are the kinds of things that I'm continually doing for myself. And when I do it for myself, it's tried, tested, and proven in my own system. I know how to teach it. So then I bring it through and share it to other people. And I feel like that's the work of most people in their soul-aligned life. It's like we're doing our inner work as individuals. And through that is the outpouring of what blossoms within us through our hard inner work, or easeful inner work. I don't want to condition myself to saying it's just hard work, because it ain't all hard work, yeah? So I do my inner work, yeah, and from the outpourings of that, I get to offer the things that I have done and guide people in the same unique way. And everybody in their own uniqueness has their own way of doing their healing work and offering that in their own unique way. And this offers something truly unique for everybody, yeah? So I thank you for listening. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comments, or reach out to me in any way that feels respectful and appropriate. Thank you for your time and your energy. Blessings and good chi to you.